Hello everyone, my name is Aaron and this is the Game Day Hour. Welcome back to another college football episode, and now it's time to move on to week 3. Week 2 was the most exciting college football week thus far. I got to watch many games and I was very happy to see what I saw based on my predictions and what I thought was going to happen this week. It came to fruition, so I'm very happy. And now it's time to look over the next week. So in today's episode, we're going to take a look at my top 25. Remember, it's my top 25, not ESPN's. It's different from ESPN's. You're basically going to see who I have from 1 to 25, and that's about it from there. And we're going to then take a look at the best matchups. And I want to warn y'all, these matchups, I'll admit, are not as interesting as last week's, but this is going to be the last week I say they're uninteresting, because once week 4 kicks around, we're going to see a lot of great matchups on the horizon. So it's time to get started. The 25th spot was a toss-up between UCLA and Clemson, but I rolled with Clemson because although they weren't playing great against Charleston State, they finally figured it out on offense, and I think from now on we're going to start seeing a little bit more of a expected Clemson type performance each and every single week. So that's why I have Clemson at 25. As for UCF, UCF barely beat Boise State, so they get to drop down, but because they're in my top 25 and they have not lost yet, I'm not going to remove them yet. Miami gets to jump in after being the one and only team to keep me from having a perfect record this last week by beating Texas A&M in convincing fashion. So the Hurricanes get to jump into the top 25 being undefeated. Duke, of course, they took care of business, but they don't move, and that's because of one of my bigger upsets was Washington State over Wisconsin. Washington State looked really good against Wisconsin. I got to catch the back half of it as the Texas and Alabama game was wrapping up. But Washington State looked really good, and Wazoo gets to be in my top 25. Not much interest in these next 5 picks because everybody just moved up a spot, with one team, that being Wisconsin, dropping. So that means every single team just bumped up one little spot. So there's nothing important here, but I'll go over the games. Oregon State took care of business over UC Davis. North Carolina in a thriller against Appalachian. I said Appalachian would play close because they always do. So I am not dropping North Carolina for playing low to a team that's not a Power 5 team, because Appalachian State might as well one day become a Power 5 team. How they play. Kansas State took care of business against Troy, but have a difficult matchup this next week. Ole Miss took care of business against Tulane. That was another pick I had, and that one went very well. And Colorado, of course, Colorado is just rolling with Sanders, so it just makes sense to have them that higher. And they're going to be host of College Game Day this week. So if you guys like watching College Game Day on ESPN, I recommend going to check it out. They are going to be the host against Colorado State this week, so have fun. And with this graphic, there's only one team that's different here, and that is Washington moving up to the 15th spot. Wisconsin dropped, of course, but every team, LSU, Oklahoma, Utah, and Oregon, all stay the same, even though they've all possessed pretty good wins. LSU absolutely took care of business. Oklahoma, not so much taking care of business. Utah survives Baylor, and Oregon survives Texas Tech. So everybody gets to stay relatively where they are, but Washington moving a little bit closer and closer. Again, not much movement from the top 10 to number 6, except for one little thing. Florida State, Tennessee, and Penn State get to move up. Tennessee was kind of a rough one, but they get to move. So all those teams did well. But what's going on at the number 9 spot? That is the Alabama Crimson Tide. Why is Alabama down here? Well, Texas, they did the impossible and won in Tuscaloosa. So Alabama drops to number 9. ESPN's ranking has them below Notre Dame. I still think that they're technically a still better team than Notre Dame, but hey, maybe they'll sway my opinions soon enough. But Notre Dame took care of business against North Carolina State late. Alabama lost. Penn State rolled. Tennessee kind of barely won over Austin Peay, and Florida State rolled as well. So that is your 10 through 6. And now it's time to look at the top 5. Again, not much change in the top 5 except for number 3. Hook 'em Horns. They beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa and jumped from my number 6 to my number 3 spot. However, USC, they were convincing in their win. Ohio State at first wasn't so convincing, but then they got more convincing at the end. Michigan took care of business, and Georgia, I mean, they balled out over Ball State. But hello, Longhorns sitting at the number 3 spot. This is my top 25, and yes, college football week 2 was insane, which is why some of the craziest moves in the top 25 happened. Now it is time to move on to the predictions this week. We only have 6 games because there's not many big games going on this week. There are some good ones, but not some great ones. Get ready for next week, though. I'm really asking y'all to push towards getting ready for the rest of the weeks when conference play begins, because that's when we'll see the big matchups start to occur. But this week, we still got good matchups. But before we get to that, I went 6-1, with my only loss being at the hands of Miami. Otherwise, I predicted right on Texas and Wazoo, which made me super happy. Notre Dame, of course, gets it. Oregon wins in a thriller. North Carolina wins in a thriller. And lastly, Ole Miss pulls away at the end. Now, 6 games. At least 6. Let's get started. Kansas State sits at my number 18 spot as they go to undefeated Missouri. Yes, this is the first game. Kansas State has looked great in all their matchups. Missouri has also looked really good. But this one is not going to take very long. I still think Kansas State is a very dangerous team and will win in Missouri. I do think, though, that it will be a little bit close, depending on how you say close is. I say it is double-digit wins, but my, 10 or 14, but that's about it. I have the Wildcats win. Now, this one's going to be a little bit interesting. LSU versus Mississippi State. LSU lost to Florida State in week 1 and then absolutely rolled against Grambling, so they have not lost their footing just yet. LSU is still a very good team. Mississippi State recently had a win against Arizona, but so far I have picked against LSU once and have been correct. But this time I'm not going to pick against LSU. I think the Tigers are going to beat the Bulldogs, but I think it's going to be close at first until the third quarter rolls around and then LSU pulls away. I do think that being in that Mississippi State environment is going to be difficult for LSU, but Daniels, he's going to roll. He's going to get it done. It's going to happen. Our first look at number 1 Georgia. They have rolled in every single one of their games, and they're playing South Carolina, who I picked to beat North Carolina, but they didn't get it done. Georgia, being number 1, their offense is still amazing, and their defense is still doing some work. I believe that the Bulldogs will beat the Gamecocks big. It's going to be a big win. So, Georgia gets to stay at the number 1 spot. Minnesota at number 19, North Carolina. The Big Ten versus the ACC. Now, North Carolina has been in every single one of my episodes, except for the one that never got posted, and that was the one when my hard drive crashed and I lost all the files, and that was week 0. But week 1, I picked against them, against South Carolina. They won. I picked them to beat Appalachian in week 2, not by a lot. They won. So now, again, we're sitting with this dilemma. Do I pick North Carolina? Do I not pick North Carolina? I mean, I'm obviously going to pick North Carolina. Minnesota has not looked that great in all their wins. So, Tar Heels, they continue to get it done, and Drake May continues to improve. Soon, these two teams will play each other very often in the Big Ten, as Washington is moving to the Big Ten soon. Washington sits at number 15. I know they're in the top 10, but I have them at number 15 on my list as they play the Spartans. Now, if you guys know about the recent stories, the Spartans coach Tucker is not going to be there because of some allegations going on, which means Michigan State's going to have to roll with an intern head coach. And because of that, though I think Michigan State will keep it close, Washington will remain undefeated. I believe that Washington also has the firepower to contend with bigger teams like this, and you're going to see in games like the future against Oregon, against USC potentially. Washington, they're going to be fine. And our game of the week is in the swamp. Welcome back, Florida. It's been a while since we've had you on this. By a while, I mean 2 weeks ago when you lost to Utah. But you're back. You got yourself a win last week. And now you're hosting number 7 Tennessee. Again, I know they're number 11. I have them at number 7. I didn't drop them. Tennessee, Joe Milton, he looks like a really good replacement for Hendon Hooker. And I believe that he's going to continue to do well. However, it's going to be a very close game. Because when it's in the swamp, it's always going to be. But I still have the Vols winning just by a little bit, a small margin. So yes, I have Tennessee winning against Florida in the swamp. Though I would say it might come down to the last drive. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave it at that. And thank you so much for watching today's episode. I'm sorry that you're not seeing my face when I'm doing this outro. My outro kind of got corrupted as far as audio went, so I'm kind of just hitting you with a quick outro here. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. This might carry over into the next episode, so just a warning on that. Also, go follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, all those places. And yeah, the next episode will be the NFL Week 2. So, hope you guys are ready for that. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great day. Take care and goodbye.